is a serial entrepreneur, angel investor, and business matchmaking expert. Arijit is also known as a virtual reality specialist and AI evangelist. He is ranked number 14 globally as a blockchain thought leader. His love for travel has led him around the globe across 40 countries till date and built a business network in over 95 countries. He is a startup mentor and faculty of entrepreneurship and technology and is very actively associated with world-leading tech, finance and political organizations. Arijit's experience in helping startups, entrepreneurs and governments across the world to solve problems using entrepreneurship, technology, finance education and innovation spans over 24 years and has also led him to become the founder of Virtual Infocom or VIC, one of India's first game development studios, which is known for its many innovations in IT solutions, game development, AI, ML, blockchain solutions, VR, AR, XR, and animation. Arijit has also founded Entrepreneur Space, a platform to connect startups with mentors and investors, and created his own high net worth individual angel fund to help SMEs, startups, and mid-level corporate companies. As an active mentor and consultant, Arijit has helped thousands of startups to grow and grow. Sir, welcome to XLRI and Engineer. We would like to welcome you to the panel. Next up, we have Mr. Abhijit Kumar, who is the co-founding partner at our venture fund, Angel Investor and Entrepreneur. With a BTech from the esteemed IIT Mumbai, Abhijit has worked with Deloitte Consultant as an associate consultant before moving on to found his own company, Pronto Infotech, in the ITES space. Here he faced and overcame the challenges that come with setting up an enterprise. In the last 6 years, he has created a successful venture with a multi-crore revenue system. He has worked with numerous clients across industries and in various functional domains, including tax, retail, HR, e-commerce, web, supply chain, technology, banking, and others. Abhijit has extensive experience working directly and indirectly with various functional domains, consulting in both businesses and technical capacities, and being able to evaluate ventures across the board. He has also assisted entrepreneurs with smart cost planning through the optimization of systems, processes, and networks, as well as setting and achieving goals. Abhijit is not only has a large network of professionals from a variety of fields, including operations, finance, accounting, and marketing, but he also has the ability to produce business. Sir, welcome to XLRI and to Engineer. We would like to welcome you to the panel. Our third and final panelist for today is Mr. Gaurav Haji. Gaurav is the managing partner at Superfuel Ventures. The Superfuel portfolio has a 100% markup track record, raised over $400 million across its investments, and has created over 2,000 jobs by 2021 as an entrepreneurial, hands-on early-stage investor. Gaurav has invested in a number of companies, including Shiprocket, DataWeave, Roposo, BU Salons, and Talking Threads, of which Gaurav is both CEO and co-founder. In addition, he has also co-founded and built Deals & You and was a founding director of Fashion & These two startups raised approximately $87 million between 2010 and 12 before Gaurav decided to exit both companies. Previously, Gaurav has led businesses for Fortune 100 companies as GE General Electric, including Country Director, GE Transportation and VP Strategic Accounts, GE Corporate South Asia, leading all of GE's key strategic relationships, as well as serving on GE's India's Growth Council and Marketing Council. Gaurav's most recent position was CEO, Digital Retail, India Today Group. Additionally, he managed Manpower Inc.'s largest clients across 21 countries as Director, Global Accounts, Asia Pacific and Middle East. In order to give back to the society, Gaurav spends a portion of his work week mentoring emerging business people in prestigious educational and community forums like IIT-M, IIT KGP, NMIMS, HeadStart Ventures, and more. He has won honors from the various corporations he has worked for, including GE Capital, Global Management Award, GE India Management Awards, and India Today Group's Chairman's Award. But most recently, he received the Karamveer Chakra Award from the UN and International Confederation of NGOs, ICONGO, for his contributions to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Sir, extending the warmest welcome to XLRI and NGO.
Before we start with the panel discussion, I would like to request Souvik sir to please come over and present a token of appreciation to Mr. Akhil and Mr. Madhav from Coffee Bar. I would request Souvik sir to please present a bouquet to Mr. Madhav and Mr. Akhil. And Anshu ma'am to please present the memento.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Lastly, to set off the panel discussion, let me introduce you to our moderator for the session and my fellow student, Akash Raj Shukla. Akash is a result-driven professional, passionate individual who comes with over 6 years of experience, having worked in India's leading logistics firm, Delivery. He has been a highly innovative, analytical and focused professional in the supply chain consulting and business development domains. His tenaciousness and amiable nature, apart from the fact that he is one of the sharpest minds in our batch, has also led him to become the General Secretary for our Student Elective Placement Committee and a representative of the batch. Today, at the third edition of our flagship startup conclave, Engineering, we hope to take away insights from our esteemed panelists that will help the up-and-coming startup aspirants and give direction to their dreams, bring their plans to fruition, and most importantly, learn what not to do. Now, I will let Akash take over from here and initiate the panel discussion.
Thank you, Survi, for your kind words. Welcome Gaurav, Abhijit, and Ajit. Thank you for being here on a Saturday afternoon. Batchmates are excited to talk about the investment startup because from morning we are discussing that there is one idea, one believer, what it takes to come and pursue that $1 million idea. So, one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Peter Thiel, has said that venture capital is not a science, it is a form of art, and it basically takes that identification of idea and the courage to bet on it. Similarly, India, as of now, it is an era of disruption, the rapid technologies which are changing the game of startups. And similarly, India is third when it comes to the ecosystem of startups, which have been registered in 2020, compared to the number which was just 5,000 in 2010. Now it is 15,000 in just 2020. The reason for that is the key drivers for the same is the UPI, which has existed, the technological changes, the internet, and the excess of phones which the public has. It has led to, these are the key enablers which has led to the growth of the startups in India. But still we feel that there are still many challenges that act as a hindrance in realizing the true potential of startups in India. And through the panel discussion which we'll be having, I like to bring the questions that my batchmates would also be interested to know about, apart from the theories which we have studied in our financial management courses and different courses of private equity, merger and acquisition. So, to start with, I'll start with a very general question that what are the changes you see in the startup industry in India from last 5 to 10 years? And what have been the key drivers for the startups in the last 5-10 years? So, Gaurav, would you like to take it?
So let's put it like this. When we raised our first startup in 2009, we were running around, right, trying to raise money. It was a very different situation. There were very few funds, and very few wanted to invest in things like e-commerce. We were predecessors to the Flipkarts of the world, or the Mintras of the world. And there were very few, practically no angels, right? So there were no established norms on what a good term sheet looks like, no best practices, and honestly, we pretty much got screwed on our Series A. Right? So one of the reasons that we insist when we set up 5 Ideas, Startup Superfuel as a platform, one of the reasons we spend so much time educating the ecosystem is so that no one else gets screwed the way we got screwed by people with 2 extra connections from we did. Today, I think the ecosystem has developed and matured to no one. Right? I mean, you've got over 800, 900 qualified investors in the angel networks in the major cities alone, right? You've got a bunch of corporate professionals who are looking to jump in as well. There are accelerators which have now become fairly well recognized, which are doing reasonably decent work for practically no equity. And I think there's a plethora of young funds, right? 2 of us being examples right here, right? Who are continuing to invest in early stage before the global players, all of whom driven by the fact that the rest of the world is not going at the same pace and they don't have 1.5 billion people, right, is throwing money in this direction, right? So there's almost $6 billion in dry VC powder, right? VC and PE powder that's sitting pointed at India, right? Money that's already been raised, right, which hasn't been deployed. So yeah, it's a drastic transformation from when we raised our first startup 13 years ago, a little longer. So I think it's a good time. It's a very good time to start up for anyone who does want to start up.
Thank you, Gaurav. Even I go by the numbers also. In India in 2021, over 2020, venture capital funding has increased by 3.8x time, versus if I compare with China, it's just 1.3 times. And as I already mentioned the 3 drivers, and you also said that you are here with the Superfuel Ventures, what not to do, or what are the learnings, what are the challenges you have faced you're trying to eliminate for the future upcoming founders. So definitely the point taken. I move to Arjit. So Arjit, you started India's one of the oldest game development studios in 1998, and at that time, like gaming industry was in very nascent stage. I think not existed even in India. If I go back to 1998, so like what was the vision at that time to bringing that gaming development studio when? If I talk about startups also, they were not a culture of startup, and then you coming with this idea. Because right now there are many players in gaming, like we have Dream 11, we have many other firms who are doing good. So can you just go back to those 22 years back and what was the vision? You can share your story.
I think it's
I think it's about 25 years back, if I'm not wrong. Well, it's a funny story. I used to write and draw comics when I was in schools. And I totally disagree of a point that art is not science. Art is the biggest science that you can see. Unfortunately, people don't get that because humankind always feel that emotion is wrong. And a very beautiful language called English taught us that everything can be defined in 26 letters. So I used to fear a lot in my childhood days. And I saw a couple of people with long beard, white hair, gray hair, with paint brushes. They say that we are happy, we are artists, and we are not making money, but we are comfortable. To be very honest, when I was in class 10th standard, I created a number of superheroes, and I was thinking that if I have to enter in this vertical, the best option to marry between the logic, the programming that I know, I forgot to mention I'm a self-taught programmer, to marry between that programming with maybe the art would be game development. I was crazy enough, I was mad enough, because when I raised my hand and say that I'm into game development, nobody understood it. People used to say that you are in animation, which is completely different than game development. Game development needs artificial intelligence, it needs networking, it needs a lot of coding, and graphics is just a part of it, right? It's a roller coaster journey, to be very honest. I started with rupees 49 exact, that money in my pocket. It used to be my daily pocket money of 1 rupees, which I used to get from my mom, and I used to save it to start something meaningful. I had no computer, nothing. The way I started, I'll make it very, very simple for the audience because it's not a my story session. So the way I started an academy in my own house, started teaching students, made some money, went to Chandni Chowk area, which is in Calcutta, best known for getting systems assembled. Got some offices as my customer. Used to carry CPU and CRT monitor in my back to deliver that, to save that cost. Completely bootstrap model, right? And then in 3 years down the line time, I made a good number of people as my team member. I differ a point, employees and team. The kind of people I got in my organization, for the last 25 years they are working with us. This is the funniest part, right? And the reason I never ever wanted to hire a third party people, because I wanted to create my own kind of team. It's like creating your own Justice League, right? So that was the passion, if you ask me, and successfully we created a very complete different kind of model. How many of you have heard about Shaktiman TV series? Oh my God! How many of you know that we are creator of Shaktiman game? None of you. That's the challenge in India. So till date, when you ask me a question that India is doing great in games, unfortunately, we are superhero creators. We created more than 350 plus celebrities as our superhero characters in our games. You can find it maybe in almost every app store. But when we talk about this ecosystem, I actually wanted to create a system wherein people can get job. That was my next passion that happened in 2001. And when I look back in 2001 and wanted to recruit more and more programmers, more and more artists, I saw there is a huge gap. It's a big gap that people need realistic aspect in India. In today's time, what if I tell you that we are a complete cloud-based company in 2018 before even COVID hit? That time also people laughed at us. They said that they probably wanted to save their office cost or maybe some administrative cost. That's why they went to complete cloud. And I found, as I said, English is a very funny language of 26 letters. They say that if you consume apple, it is great. Apple can wipe out any of your so-called issues in your body. So they defined food apple, they defined water apple, but fortunately we have approximate 52 letters in our Indian culture, almost every language. Right? So what we did, we started creating epic-based and mythology-based characters and games. We are telling the world we are not a country with a flute and a snake. We are basically a country coming with a lot of rich culture, and that gave us a lot of success. 2008, I became an individual angel investor just to understand if I couldn't make others understand that what is game development and how big this market is, and if world is recognizing me, why don't I give back as maybe an individual angel investor? Eventually created a fund called Co-Innovate Ventures. Learned the trick to understand that you don't need to invest your own money, rather there are people with a lot of big money and they can join your hand. And that's the growth story. That's probably in a nutshell my story. Hope that answers.
Yeah, that answers well. Well, Arjit, we all would have played Contra, Tetris, but we wouldn't have thought that way. But yeah, it's an interesting story that while designing your superheroes, and the fact when you told that Shaktiman was one of the BB product.
I will give you a model which probably is unheard in India. If you're playing our games in southeast part of Asia, you will be able to buy any kind of realistic product. For an example, if there is a superhero costume, there are partnered companies with us who are actually selling it. And what we did, this is interesting, we actually trained a lot of village people who used to do crafts, handicrafts. Nowadays we are shouting that we should do something for the handicrafts people, right? What we did, we trained all these people to create superhero costumes, amulets, ornaments, weapons, a lot of different kind of things inside the game. And we connected the real world with the virtual world. That makes you a disruptive company. Unfortunately, I'm here in India and you never played my game. Really feel sad.
Got it. So, Ajit, I'll move on to Abhijit for a question relatively. Onto your journey, like, tell us about our ventures. Like, what does it do? And what is the story behind this name, like, our ventures and, what is that? Why this name?
Okay. So the more serious definition of I is obviously the exclamation, the fun behind it. The company was started by two very old friends over a couple of drinks. It was more to start our own personal investments, and that's why we thought investing has been always a serious business, especially earlier days. Now it's fun, it looks like okay, so much of investing happening, it's so easy to raise money, but back in days when I graduated, or maybe 2003, obviously there was no concept for investing. And 8, 9 also it was very serious business because VCs were always very high valued. So we thought, let's make it a little fun. Why everyone is so serious in investing? Actually, it should be fun, right? You're at the end supporting business which will make you wealthy. So the name came, and the other funny part explanation of this, Abhijit is A, Harshad is my other partner H. So that's, I think that was the main reason. Yeah, so that's how it started. About 9, we incorporated the company more for our personal investments. So Harshad and I have done quite a lot of combined more than 150 odd personal investments through various channels, combined with science, directly, indirectly. Then we thought of extending the concept to a network. There was always networks at that point of time. IIN and Mumbai Angels were there, but they were limited to geographies. We moved the platform more to a larger scale, got more digital play into it, started inviting friends to start investing, extend the platform, more angel investors. The platform is still active. We do about a portfolio about close to $50 million now on the platform, 150 investments. The next step was obviously, as Gaurav said, the early stage fund. So we launched the fund last year. The approval came this mid-June. It's a $20 million fund. So we want to be present in all the life cycle of a startup, right? So funding is never, you want to be there till the time you can be there with a startup, because then the returns are multiplied, right? So somebody asked me, why didn't you start a startup? You are an IIT. And I said, there are two ways to make money. Either you build a unicorn or you bet on a unicorn. Or you're right, so my part, I have the other kind of expertise. I can bet on a unicorn. So we want to be there invested till the time a company becomes a unicorn with 4,000, 5,000 crore. So for next step would be obviously for us to launch a VC fund, so that we get right from the first stage, invest through the platform, invest through the angel fund, invest through the VC fund, and maybe exit at IPO. So that's the whole journey.
Journey looks interesting. Adding on to it, when you said that you're managing a $50 million fund, so what are the top 5 factors, if I say, and I consider the financial factors for us, like you consider before investing in a startup? So you may have a choice where you would be having 10 startups or 15 startups, but you can invest in 1 or 2. So what would be the primary key factors, the financial factors you consider before going ahead? Yes, this is the idea, this is the startup you're looking.
Sorry, no professors here. That's all. I'm not. It's a $20 fund to start with, a $50 million platform. 50 million invested already in 150. But yeah, I not to offend anyone the whole curriculum, but for us it's always maybe 95% of the founders. Early stage is fully founders. It's the rest of the things, business plan, market size, model, will keep changing. If founders are there, they'll make it work. If founders are not there, I can't run the business as an investor, so it's dead anyways, right? So when we invest such early stage, we look for uh, not arrogant but confident founders, down to earth, who can manage, tough situations, have sense of what they are doing, have knowledge of the product, market. But yeah, 95% is founders, 10% here and there rest.
He's already got 105%. That tells you how much he's looking at financial metrics. We look at it differently. Okay, so yes, founders is a very key part of the equation. But you see, someone had brought up backgrounds, right? The lady next to you. Yeah, but she brought up backgrounds earlier in a previous discussion. And it's extremely important at the end of the day, if you want to build a startup in a space that's going to become a business someday, right? It's not always going to be a startup, it's going to become a business. And if you're going to disrupt that space, unless you have context, background, knowledge, understanding of what is right and what is wrong, what each stakeholder is involved or engaged with, right? How are you going to create that disruption? If you don't know the margins that there are in various stages of the value chain, right? How are you going to create a meaningful disruption which is sustainable or is going to give you a critical advantage? So yes, when we look at founders, we look at founders from a background perspective, from what they've achieved, any track record of excellence. But very importantly, we don't want people trying to reinvent the wheel, no matter how smart the founder is. Right? We need problems, which again was brought up in the previous panel, which are of a reasonable size. So just before we briefly touched upon the chaiwala outside is an entrepreneur. Right? He's an entrepreneur, and Chai Point is also owned by an entrepreneur. Right? And Chayos is also owned by an entrepreneur. What's the difference? Right? One is looking at a completely disruptive, consistent product offering at a significant scale. Right? The market existed. One guy is a repetitive entrepreneur, the other guy is an innovative entrepreneur. He's trying to take a certain critical piece of our culture, package it, standardize it, roll it out in a completely different, and this is not a very innovative model. Right? There's no fancy tech here. Right? And for the record, technology boils down to standardization of processes, pretty much that. It's how to make something. Right? Whether it is making chai or it's doing AI. Right? So yes, the problem that you're solving for accounts, at least for us, at least 50% of it. We know you're going to morph your solution, right? But the founder's background and the problem that he's looking at have to be broadly aligned in our view. Right? In terms of financial metrics, we'd be looking at viability. So, fundamental metrics which go around individual economics of the transaction itself. Different models, it'll be different, right? So a SaaS model, it'll be fundamentally different to an e-com model, to a real estate model, right? So a physical model or to a hybrid model, or the numbers will continue to change, but fundamentally what you're looking for is the viability of an individual transaction, right? And can this model create disproportionate value at any stage by capturing a little more from someone else in the ecosystem? Right? At the end of the day, the total value in the ecosystem is the same, right? And unless you have an impact on the consumer's wallet, you're not going to make a difference. You're going to sink like a stone, just like lots of other people say. For every one successful entrepreneur, there are 99 failed ones. Right? So if you want to make a difference, there has to be a financial angle as well. Which it means is that he invests at a much earlier stage than most of us.
Yeah.
Right? And he has line of sight to those companies way before most.
But wherever you invested, those Ship Rocket bought one of my portfolio companies. So yeah, I
well, our portfolio companies became big enough to buy those.
So yeah, we do much earlier. But that doesn't mean, adding to his point, I am not going to invest on the full founders, right? Doesn't matter whether you're from XLRI or I. When we evaluate the basic common sense. We assume that if a founder is talking sense, he will have knowledge of all the finances and the metrics.
Thank you, Gaurav. So just for the audience, we would have studied different models on how to, evaluate those NPVs, those IRR, and how the sales is happening, what is the basic unit economics. So those points are valid, but yeah, it comes with the founder background also, that how the founders are taking those risks and what are the, not just the background and the qualifications they have. Apart from because you summarized in just one point, and that was a qualitative factor. You mentioned that we look for the founders, and I was expecting there will be a key metrics of 5-7 points. Maybe you'll be looking at what are the problem they are solving, how big is the market. Then again, sales, there maybe P/Y ratio or some other financial term. But again,
At that stage, there is practically no ratio available. Right?
Yeah.
And NPV or any IRR or anything else is based on forecasting. When we make an investment, we are looking at our own models, right? We are looking at spaces that we are keen on, spaces that we think are ripe for innovation. So there is an industry-led thesis that most funds have, and there is a strategy-led thesis that most funds have, right? As every fund moves from, so this is very important for guys who actually want to raise money, right? You have to understand what the thesis of the individual fund you're working with has, right? And there will be funds which are focused around specific areas, right? They will only invest. The fund that is done by this family,
Lot of D2C funds.
no, AI fund. They've done an entire fund. There are 2 funds now which are dedicated to AI, right? And every founder loves to throw in the word AI, but if I ask the founder what's the difference between AI and algorithm, most of them are biting their nails saying, it's just, right? So I'm saying that there are people who are doing specific themed funds. There are people who are doing specific themed investments. Someone like us, the reason we have a very clear strategy is because we know where we're entering and where we're exiting irrespective. We will not hold on till IPO. That's a very clear critique of this thing for us. We will enter at X point and exit at X point. And for us, we need to look at the credibility of that asset in that phase. Someone who comes in and buys from us, right? Whether it's a Sequoia right now, or it's somebody else, right? At any point in time, they have a different thesis altogether. For them, that's a bargain. So if they're buying a Series C company and they're putting 50 million in, right? It's no big deal to them. To me, it's 2 times my fund size or 3 times my fund size. You know what I mean? That's their individual check that they're putting into them, right? So
when you say that there are funds which are dedicated for a particular, as you mentioned, for AI, so are there particular sectors also in the industry that funds are focused upon?
yes.
And even
Health tech, agri-tech, there are specific funds that are working only those spaces, right? Health tech, agri-tech, biotech. When I say biotech, it's the product set, not product and DNA and gene splicing and fundu stuff like that, right? Which is really highly technical. Health tech goes into all of other things also, right? With more generic, right? AI, bunch of other things. I mean, there's funds that specialize in various places. We had Axel. Everyone's heard of Axel, right? They're one of the biggest, largest funds in the world, right? Look at one of our companies, and they walked away from it saying that we think its final exit will be 500 to 700 million. We need a business that's at least $1 billion in potential, right? And I said, why? He said, because Gaurav, that exit is not going to make a difference in my total fund size. He said, the work for me is exactly the same, but that exit is not going to make a difference to what I need to return to my investors. Right? So every fund has a thesis. You guys are smart. You're not fachas. Right? This is an experienced class. Right? So use your smarts. Right? Understand who you're talking to, know your audience, right? Know who you're pitching to, know what is their strategy and how you fit. Very important if you want to succeed.
Great. And that I think applies for the entrepreneur also. Like you will be representing the organization. You need to know that your company wants to make you go ahead and chase 100 customers, and those 100 customers will be small size or medium size, versus you go for 5 customers or 10 customers which are high paying clients, which are high revenue paying clients. So, yeah. So, going back to Arijit, so you have a book title called Experts Can Blow It, and there was a line mentioned with a question mark. Raising capital at an early stage is the road to success. So just wanted to know about your thoughts, because there's a lot of debate happening on the social media as well, that is it important to raise equity at a very early stage, and if it happens also, so the equity get diluted also. So can you throw some light on this particular topic, like what you want to convey with this particular line?
Sure, why not? So guys, probably I have been raising funds for over a decade and investing in startups. worldwide, not only in India. So I'd love to give one of the live examples that happened in last March. We do an investor roundtable every country. I forgot to mention I'm founder of World Leaders Summit, which is a 97 countries chapter. So in my board I have got people like Craig Johnston, Steve, not many other big personalities. I really don't want to throw names. So what happened in Dubai in last March? One of the company based out of Moldova, they wanted to raise capital. And they had a very unique brick and mortar business. They had only a gas station, basically a oil pump, and along with that they had a cafe and a bookstore. And they wanted to do it in entire Europe. Wanted to raise capital. It was not at all very attractive. So we wanted to understand whether these founders have actual passion in it, whether they are inside that business, clicked. Are they serious? Yes. Every parameter was amazing, but somehow the way they wanted to raise the capital, it doesn't have that X factor. So what we did, we converted that entire business into an ecosystem utilizing blockchain. So when you enter into that gas station, the AI-based camera will detect and understand you. It will understand how much gas you usually consume almost every week or maybe in a day. And it will understand your appetite, what kind of food you have, what kind of books you read. It's a very common European culture, but that created an entire ecosystem. And they raised fund on the top of that ecosystem instead of the traditional brick and mortar model. So what we learned in this, in some point of time, investors need a complete different kind of story, which is probably not there in their existing business. I would love to share something. We wanted to raise X amount of capital. After negotiation, it happened something minus with the same kind of equity sharing that they wanted to do. So whatever you're reading in your books, I'm sorry for this statement, it doesn't apply in real life. All happens in negotiation time. यार बियर पीते हुए बोलेंगे यार चलो यार समझ रहा हो यार 20% चल बात करते हैं 40 में दे दे. Right? So these things happen in real life. Whatever you will be discussing, to be very honest, when you go to the real life, you need to understand how to negotiate and are you open to make your company investor ready or not. There is a big difference between running a company and creating an investor ready company. That's it. And the reason I made that statement with a question mark, when you are in the early stage of your journey, entrepreneurial journey, you need to understand whether you are open to have someone in your company who will be saying, okay, don't do this and don't do that, or probably you should do like this. It's just like finding a best girlfriend or boyfriend, which is unknown. Completely unknown. So if you are ready for that, I think that's one of the best way you should handshake with the investors.
Got your point, Tarjeet. How you can say like there are examples of Zerodha also, which are today also running with a bootstrap business, and other funds also, which are not going for this model of diluting the equity. Versus now we have seen that startups are coming, which are diluting their equity at a very early stage, and some VCs are even going to at an early stage of seed A round also, or not as an angel but going for a round. Previously they were going after B or after C round, but now the trends have shifted and they are going for that angel investment round or seed A round, because when the startup actually come to them, the equity is already diluted a lot, and even when they think that startup, yes, it is an investable business, they are not able to do it. So can you throw some light on it, like how it is happening and what do you feel about that?
Well, it's just nothing personal, but what I feel like, if you are creating a company, you should be able to create a legacy. Instead of create a company just to take an exit. I'm really sorry for this statement. That's what I firmly believe in. So whatever is happening at the moment in India, we need to understand India is a very rich country. It's a myth. We feel that India is poor. Yeah. So there are a lot of money which is there on the table at the moment. And if there is someone who is going to disrupt the market, the mindset of investor is if I can grab it earlier, probably the valuation will really grow, and I can also make money. Hope we all understand that no investor will actually invest money philanthropic. They want to multiply their money, right? So that's the ball game that is happening at the moment, and it is good. It is actually good. In earlier times, in normal college, when a startup says that, sir, I have built this product, my MVP is ready, but I need money to probably do something, start something. Or maybe a startup is saying that we have a group of great people and the background is really cool, but we need money to at least create our product. Earlier days, it was not there. I mean, there was no person who is saying that, okay, fine, beta, aaja, I'll give you some money. It's happening nowadays because investors are becoming smart, as Gaurav said. We have registered and unregistered probably thousands of individual angel investors who are joining the angel syndicates as well as investing through the VC funds. You'll probably get a shock. Lot many companies who are not from India, they have good amount of money, they want to invest in India. They need a route so that they can invest through some party. And that is happening because the world understood we Indians are making the disruption. And that's one of the sole reasons, coming back to the answer of your question, these kind of overvaluation is happening, which will settle down very soon.
On the valuations, guys, just be realistic about it, because the valuations are exaggerated at this point in time. COVID basically cut everybody's risk-taking appetite, right? So people started investing in companies that they already knew were good, or they'd already committed to at some point in time because they knew that they're not going to get funds from elsewhere. And they're the safest places to park money for people who had deployment pressure. That's why you had this spike in number of unicorns. It's not that suddenly India became, oh wow, look, right? On the flip side, there also was an element of accelerated digital adoption, right? Which happened because of COVID, right? So both those things happened simultaneously, but there was no magic behind so many unicorns suddenly being born. It was basically investment cycle pressures, right? These are realities of late stage investment businesses, right? So just the same, every fund has a life, every fund has a committed deployment phase, right? So some of the theory you read will actually be useful. So if your professors are here, please let them know that, right? But the rest of it, I mean, yes, I agree with him on. And if you can, go to accelerators. I mean, they're the best places, yeah. They'll give you a little money, they'll give you a structured program, they'll help you, teach you the verbiage. You guys are generally more experienced. Just keep in mind that when an investor sits across the table and he sees you haven't put skin in the game, right? That's not convincing at all. Because we are riding your skin, right? And if you have no skin in the game, and when I say skin in the game, that means you aren't invested absolutely to the max of your capability and your friends and family. Right? That means your izzat is on the line just as much as my money. Right? It cannot be that you come to me, I have an idea, will you put money behind it? Of course, here, take the check, go away, oh sorry, it's not working. Doesn't happen. Right? It has to hurt both parties if you walk away. Right? And that's the reason I'm saying this again and again. Please, do not think the right way necessarily is to raise funds. Yashaswita is an example right in front of you of building a cash sensible, viable business. Right? So there are several models to building very profitable, successful companies. Right? I mean,
I'll be adding something with this Gaurav. Can I? Yeah. If you remember in old days in villages, you have some kind of great concept and you're a trusted person. The person with money, they usually handshake with that young child. In today's time, in districts, in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, this is the exact thing happening. I'm not sure how many of you know that. For an example, maybe a 35-year-old person have got some family fund, wanted to venture into a cool stuff, which is maybe machine learning, right? And there is a guy who is trusted enough, got that entire plan sorted out, how he is going to make some business out of it, got the team, everything is sorted, but don't have money. The best kind of matchmaking is happening over there. That's one of the core reasons Maybe it is not there in the media because they don't need any kind of hype. They just want to do their own work. Right? Sometimes overhyping may kill the cat. But the figure and the facts that you are actually watching at the moment. So I serve as a jury for National Startup Award. We have seen several startups coming and applying who are from completely different kind of background and coming from tier 3 cities out of nothing, nowhere. They have somehow raised funds, which doesn't have any kind of science as well. But India, as a structure, I think this is the thing that we need in tier 3 and tier 2 cities. We can't expect usual management science to go there and then teach them all the IIR or maybe VGA or any other fancy terms. They rely on the person, betting on the person, now we call it as a team or whatever it is, and these guys are actually making money. And I completely want to echo with Gaurav's point that if you're not putting your skin in the game, it's not going to happen. There are a lot of pitch that we usually get is like, if we get money, we will be starting this. So our question usually comes that how much money you want to put or maybe how much you have done. Well, it's not going to happen. Like any investor will actually come and say that, okay guys, you have got amazing idea and here is a check. Unless it's a product which can be patentable or you have already done that. Okay.
Yeah, just to add, there are two types of running a business. Either you grow 20% IRR standard every year, and then you don't need external funds. If you're happy with it, that also makes you a millionaire. So you don't need to go and raise funds. There is another approach where you have to grow 100% IRR. Then you need external funds. So both type of entrepreneurships are okay. There is nothing wrong or right with any approach. If you want external fund, then you have to dive with it. On the question of valuation. So when the question of valuation comes, however smart product you have built, if you are not able to communicate to me or him in 5 minutes, I don't have time for you for more than 5 minutes in my first meeting. Right? Whether you get the second meeting or not, it's totally up to you, right? So that's where the smartness and the storytelling comes. Doesn't matter what you're building, you build a rocket also, very good working, but if you're not able to communicate to me in 5 minutes how good the rocket is, how would I know what the rocket engine is and technicality is, right? So the storytelling, as Arijit said and everyone, that is where the whole picture is. The first, how do you get the second meeting with us? That's important. If you can get it, you are maybe 80%. Right? If you cracked IIT, you are through, right? So cracking the IIT is the tough part. So here getting the first meeting is the toughest part in raising fund. Rest is you will manage.
Thank you, Vijay. The right communication, the right product.
From you when we can remove debt.
Debt is not lucrative at all. It doesn't give me enough return.
No, I'm talking about entrepreneurs.
There are tons of government programs around debt at this point in time, but typically they're up to 10 lakhs is available without collateral. For women entrepreneurs, I think they go up to something like 40 lakhs or 50 lakhs, and with collateral, they're willing to go up to 1 crore for relatively younger startups. Personally, I think it's a great route. Now that they've also cleaned up some of the bankruptcy pieces, I think it's a great route as well. But they will look for something. In reality, in practical terms, you go talk to your particular local branch, and they'll say, "What? Which scheme? We've never heard of it. I don't know. It's done centrally out of one branch which you've never heard of." Right? So practically there's debt available to startups now. The good news is that you don't need to show a 5-year track record. Right? You don't necessarily need to be profitable anymore. But you will need to show adequate inventory. You will need to show something which you can hold as collateral, or you'll have to hold something of yours as collateral with the bank from a practical perspective. If the Modi government is able to change things more than lip service, that we'll see. But at least they've got them to lip service. Let's see where it goes from here. Right? But debt is a great route if you're confident in your business. I see no good reason why you shouldn't. It's the cheapest. You guys have already studied the cheapest form and all that good stuff, huh?
Yeah. That one-liner is like debt is the easiest and cheapest form of investment.
Easiest nahi hai, cheapest.
Cheapest to know, yeah. Easiest to know, but yeah.
But
Equity is.
there is a new vehicle now. I am not sure if you guys are revenue-based funding.
Yes,
Why
yes.
taking up now. You can fund your business as per your discounted future revenue.
Yeah.
That can be structured equity plus zero equity or equity plus return profit.
But
it.
that's extremely short term.
Yeah, obviously.
3 months, 6 months kind of time frame, so it doesn't really work for really early stage.
Only
Right,
the
and you need
investors
to
are
have
the fool
capital.
enough who bet our money on you. So investors are also taking huge risk costs. Don't underestimate the investors. They take a lot of your entrepreneur's risk on us, on ourselves, so that you can make 100x, so we tomorrow make 100x. But to make that 100x, you have to bet on 100.
You know, the one thing I'd like to say, which is not a question here, right? I mean, if you think about it today, right, more people die of obesity than fat. This is the first time in our history that it's true. Right? I mean, just think of it like that, right? We keep thinking of poverty and so on and so forth, but gradually, despite everything, we have lifted the world out of that extreme poverty that we were used to. And the implication of that in something like India is the fact that today you guys are sitting here thinking of how to become entrepreneurs because you want to take moonshots. When we were growing up, right? If we didn't have a job, you know, I think Dipti said that, right? If we didn't have a job, right, with a prestigious company, right, nobody would want to give that bloody daughter to you. They go, come on, go, dukandar, halwai. You know, literally, we were branded in that. Necessarily in that medical system. No. Every respectable family needs a job. So there's the cultural side, there's a support ecosystem, and there's a professional ecosystem, all of which have come together, right? I think so that's all on the bright side. On the flip side, unfortunately, most of the entrepreneurs that we see are trying to reinvent the wheel again and again, right? There's so much that we can do around inclusiveness. I mean, people talk of building global. I'm sorry, I'm all for in India, right, for India. We've got 1.5 billion mouths to feed, right? We've got a shit ton of customers and debt. We're the 5th largest economy and we're the fastest growing major economy, right? If you can't build a business in a market that you're currently present in, that you understand, that you're born into with the cultural nuances, right? What are you going to do outside here? Right? If you can't convince your wife you need to go out for a drink, you're not going to start the biggest bar in the world. I promise you. Right? I mean, it's just a fact of life. Right? So please be realistic. This is home. Right? And there is a ton of opportunity at home. Solve the problems. Look at how the world is changing. Take one step ahead. Human needs haven't fundamentally changed. Right? But technology is transforming the way we're able to serve those needs. Right? Don't come up with this. I met a bunch of, you know, in 2013-14, I met a bunch of IITians, 6 IIT Delhi graduates. Okay, I'm not going to name the startup. 6 IIT Delhi graduates together making a t-shirt printing company. Customized t-shirts. And I told them, dudes, with your collective IQ of over 1,000, this is the best idea you could come up with, printing custom t-shirts?
Must be inspired from Inkfood. Inkfood got sold. And there was an IIT Bombay company. But just jokes apart, yeah. That's not a good idea.
Right? But that's the problem, right? We guys are constantly looking to do incremental ideas. Right? There is a lot to be done. Right? There's a lot of change happening, and India is an incredible place because change is happening at a disruptive pattern. Right? Because we're leapfrogging technologies. Right? That didn't happen outside. You know, they went from gradual adoption of each phase. Right? We just went straight. Right? We keep leapfrogging pieces. Right? So there is this huge opportunity that's going to emerge. Put your minds together, think of your experience, and come up with meaningful ideas. Please don't be flogging dead horses. You know, that's my only one suggestion to this room of generally intelligent people. Right? Please think intelligently, and when you talk to an investor, look at it from the other way around and say, would you ask your father to put money in it? It's a very whack way to look at it, right? But it's a very pragmatic way. Would your dad put money in it? Because the investor is going to be even more, what is this? Right? When you see 1,000 proposals a month, right, and each one going to be the next unicorn, I promise you every investor is cynical. Just look at him.
5 minutes is good
Just look
enough.
at him. right? Everybody becomes cynical. That's the truth of it. Okay, it's a function of the job. It's a function of every. Just imagine if every 5 minutes someone came up to you and said, "Boss, I'm going to build you the next unicorn. Boss, I'm going to build you the next unicorn." After 3 days, what will happen to your brain? Right? That's what's happened to that guy for 7 years, 10 years. His mind is already toast unless you're able to bring something intelligent, which goes back to what he's saying. Right? And please treat it with that level of cynicism, that your pitch is going to be received with a certain degree of cynicism. Right? There are no better cynics than the people who love you most, who don't want to get into that space. Pitch to them. It makes a lot of sense, trust me. Makes a lot of sense. Find your biggest cynics, pitch to them, who also are fond of you, right? Those kind of cynics, not the other types.
Kindly go in YouTube and put my name in it. You will find out there is an animated video of my life. I had to convince my father. It actually started 8:30 p.m. at night, going towards approximately 4 a.m. the next morning, just to convince him that why I am going to start my own company. And he's perfectly right. In those days, if you say that you are starting your own company and you're leaving engineering, you're joining economics and statistics and mathematics, which is not at all related to science, your parents used to, at least our parents used to say that you're not going to do anything in your life. So convincing your parent is, of course, the first job that you need to do. Coming back to that, I would love to add one single point. I'm sorry, moderator. If you guys are smart enough, you need to understand what you're eating. What you had in your lunch today? छोले कुलचा. छोले कहाँ से आए? पेस्टिसाइड कितना है? I'm serious. Is it organic? Now the problem is we have billion as a population. You need to feed everyone. There is a statement that without utilizing those kind of pesticides, you cannot mass produce those amount of food. Completely wrong. I personally made scientists who are doing amazing work. You can actually foster this process utilizing complete organic method. It's a huge market. यार नीम से दातुन करते थे, कोलगेट आया, बोला कि यार एक दो तुम लोग सब सावेज हो, कुछ नहीं करते हो, फिर कोलगेट के अंदर नमक है, नीम भी है, कोयला भी है,
महंगा बिकता है
ना? So you need to understand who we are. You need to understand what exactly you need, and there is a big need that is happening in India. People are looking for healthy food rather than junk foods. So if you can disrupt that in whatever way, technology will become a catalyst, but it's a big market. Think of it.
Thank you for the long discussion where multiple points are even, you also added a point. So one thing which was very important, because some of the batchmates also came to me and said that there is a lot of debate happening, and the valuation game which is happening, everyone wants to be a unicorn. As you mentioned also, in 2021 itself, there are more number of unicorns if I consider the whole decade from 2010 to 2020. So you also said that don't underestimate your investors, but founders say that our valuation is getting, not what we deserve or what we wanted. So how this valuation is achieved? Like, because theory wise we have understood that there are different methods, like discount cash flow method is there, where growth rates are erratic and it never works. We understand that. Then there is relative valuation, the trading multiples, and now we have also scorecard method and different. So how do you arrive at those valuations financially or technically, and then how these conflicts which happen between an investor and the founder, and then you came on a number? Because this has been observed by all of us, even in the Shark Tank, which all of us watch also, and there is a debate that how these valuation numbers are coming. There it's just the sales and 2-3 factors, and they consider and they say कि आपकी valuation ये होनी चाहिए. So what are your thoughts on it?
So valuation it's probably the most controversial and probably the most art form based piece of this entire space, right? Fundamentally, when you look at valuation as a round, right, individual round, as a thumb rule, you don't want to give more than 25%. पहले तो वो लॉक कर, राइट? वो तो आपका सबसे पहले एक तरफी वो लॉक हो गया. उससे ज्यादा कोई मांग रहा है तो वो आपका is that clear? Let's put it politely at that time, right? So let's leave it at that. But 25% is pretty much your cap, right? Do not give more than that, no matter who the investor. The second part of it comes as to what is the right value. Now, valuation depends from model to model. Valuation is a fundamental of multiple things. Your potential being one of them, but your total capital requirement in the model as a second. Right? The competitive scenario for that same company as a third. The total investment in that industry that is as a fourth. So there are so many, and I can go on and on and on, right? There are multiple factors. I think as a founder, and I've been on both sides of the table, right? Being a founder, what I look for is this money enough to get me to my next significant milestone where I can create an adequate jump in my valuation to raise my next one? I don't want to raise my next round flat. Right? No guy will give me extra cushion for that without me compromising my ceiling on what I'm willing to sell in terms of my cap table. Right? So I need to find that balance. And it will depend from model to model. A SaaS business is not as capital hungry. Right? So a SaaS business will take its own sweet time. An e-com business is tremendously capital hungry. Right? So if you're going to do rounds of 200 million in an e-com business, you can't have a valuation that's less than 200, otherwise that you own the whole company instantly. Right? So when you see these unicorns and this and that, just keep in mind that at the end of the day, what the founder owns, right? Deep owned less than 5% of MMT when he finally sold. Right? So for all of the fancy numbers of MMT's net worth, right? His actual income that he earned out of it was just 5% of that $600-700 million valuation. Right? Now, if you look at some other founder like the Sandeep Deekchandani who built something like Naukri and still owns 60% of it, who's better off? Right? So please don't get obsessed with these unicorn banana hair concepts. Right? Unicorn banana hair often happens because of the model you're picking. Right? Now, something like an Uber is a unicorn because it needs taxis, damn it. Right? If you didn't know, Uber owns over 15,000 cabs in India alone. Right? 15,000 cabs are worth a lot of money. At one point in time, I had an offer from them to join them as CEO of their leasing company. Right? So it's not a small thing, right? Ola owns more than that. Ola owns almost 25,000-30,000 critical cabs. Right? It's a shit ton of critical capital. Right? So be realistic about this, right? So don't get obsessed with valuations. And same way, you look at this one's first business, Droom founder, Sandeep Agarwal, right? Shopcluse was a unicorn, not a unicorn anymore. Snapdeal was a unicorn, not a unicorn anymore. David's Bridal on the global platform was a unicorn 3 times. 3 times they became a unicorn and 3 times they went bankrupt. Right? I can give you hundreds of examples. Unicorn, not unicorn, should not be a critical listing. Right? Sensible fundraising, sensible cap table vertical dilution, right? Which gets you to your next logical phase, right? Where you figure out that, okay, this is the set of metrics that's going to get me my next raise and my next significant jump in valuation, right? That's the cash flow path you need to follow. That's the money you need to raise. And on the flip side, I've told you how much you're going to give away for that round. Based on the other competitive pressures, it might be 25, it might be 14, it might be 20, right? That's a function of negotiation, how much the industry is already inundated. If you want to get into e-com today, nobody will touch it unless he owns a significant portion. Right? Because he's going to say you're going to need 10 rounds of funding. If I'm taking 30% also today, after 10 rounds, I'm down to 3. Not exactly, but point being, something like that. Right? So these things are an art. Do you have something to add to that?
I can give a portfolio example of mine. The valuation can be very, very. I'll give you 2 companies in EV space where we've invested. One company which is making petrol to EV engine retro space, heavy product driven, 2 years in making. Now that company raised their first round at 18 crore valuation without even a single product out, just on the product. next round at 36 crore valuation without even a single product out. Now they have some 100 pipes out and now they are raising at 150 crore. It's still revenue very minimal, right? So there is no logic, right? It's illogical, right? There is no money. Which model will you build? They are at 150 crore right now. Another company which is a EV marketplace, which is aggregating all the EVs for various B2B business, sustainable revenue, I think close to about 50 lakhs now per month, and they raised about at 40 crore valuation, right? Little smaller round, right? So if you see the logic, there is no logic, no maths or no science or no what you have read works, right? There's no revenue and that person is sitting at 150 crore. There is substantial revenue and the person is only raising at 40 crore. Right? So valuation is very flexible, up, down. So unicorn, as Gaurav said, it's very inflated. VCs have to also market, right? Otherwise, how will they get the next fund who will invest? So if they won't up the valuation, if they won't say, I like the business so much that you also come and invest, so then if Matrix says, boss, I am valuating at 100 million, then only Sequoia will come, oh, 100 million, boss, I like this. I will do 500 million. So it's again a marketing game. Make money for yourself, that should be the priority, then you will make money for us.
And I just want to add to that at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is a lifestyle. Right? A lot of people have told you it's a tough lifestyle, right? But it gives you its ups and downs, right? The moment you raise money from someone else, you also end up compromising that lifestyle to a corporate board, right? So yes, you're in the wealth creation zone that you were earlier, but you also lose that lifestyle element where you have that additional flexibility. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there is a corporate accountability and a fiduciary responsibility to third person's money. Right? The moment I pick up money from a Tom, Dick, Harry investor, he has the ability to kick me out of my own company. Right? Please be completely aware of the fact that he has minority clauses, and if he's unhappy with your performance, the CEO of the company can kick you out or force you to buy him out. Right?
NCLT is a
So now everybody would want to work for investment bankers, VCs, and PEs after your years.
No, I'm actually saying that. I'm just saying. I just meant the opposite. I haven't been very convincing, clearly. Right? So just remember, at the end of the day, someone had mentioned this on an earlier panel. Chase happiness, chase well-being, chase adequate wealth. Right? Do not get obsessed with any one track. Just imagine if only your right bicep kept growing and the rest of you kept falling in the other direction. Would you think that person is going to be attractive? No, you want it has to be holistic, right? So when you think of this, right, when you think of entrepreneurship, when you think of fundraising, when you think of entrepreneurship as a lifestyle, please remember, keep it balanced, keep it sensible. Skin in the game is necessary whether you're going your own money or someone else's money. Right? And use someone else's money as an accelerator at the right time, rather than try and use that as the formula to get off the ground. If your idea doesn't have the means to get off the ground in the first place, right, something is wrong. Right? I had the former head of Yahoo marketing come to me with a sales idea which she'd been running for a bit. Right? And she said, but Gaurav, I haven't really started marketing. And I said, I'm sorry, why? Why haven't you been thinking about it as if it's your own business? Why are you waiting for an investor to put in money to figure out how to market? How is that a justifiable excuse at any point in time? And this is a senior corporate professional. Senior corporate professional, right? So always remember these basics. Baki is all the toss of the coin.
So as it's not in the part of my question list, but you as discussed about the last panel thing, just wanted to ask your views as a combined. Do you really think that what they were discussing in the last panel, there are biases around it with the gender part? Like when you invest in a company or founders, is it really easy for the male founders to raise money versus female founders? Do you have those biases around it, or the industry accept? Again, as you mentioned, we just look for the founders. Just wanted to hear from you guys because it was getting discussed.
Before me too or after me too?
So, Ajit, you can add something.
The company I was giving example, they actually raised $350 million, and they had two co-founders who were female and one co-founder as male. To be very honest, there is a thing called if you have female or maybe if you have male, you can raise better funds. It completely depends on how you are making your business. Well, in my words, maybe I can share within 3 minutes what I call as entrepreneurship. For me, entrepreneurship is more about riding a tiger. It's not about running any business. When you start thinking of creating a business, it is just a small cup that you adopt. You fill it with milk. It is now sweet. It is just drinking milk. Eventually, you have an idea that it will grow big and you will ride on the top of it. Now you can't stop. If you stop and if you don't feed it, it is going to kill you, or you have to kill it. So if you've started this journey, it's a never-ending journey. You need to run, you need to continue, you need to understand how to feed the raw meat. And that raw meat is now money. So this money part, you need to understand how to keep a balance. Overfeeding might kill the tiger, underfeeding might kill you. So when you're raising fund, you need to understand from whom you are getting money, from where you are bringing this money, and whose money, and why you need that in which point of time. In my opinion, when we invest in the stage where probably the company started. Maybe they are not profitable, we don't care, but at least there is some kind of traction, which means you guys are serious. Or this product is completely not there in the world, it is patentable and you have got that rights, maybe from some university, and maybe as a group we can grow it. We did that in US in one of the startup. Amazing guy, ex-banker, out of passion he started the business, is completely into deep tech technology, wanted to create a product. We had a discussion, you won't believe, for completely 1 year long. After that we took our decision. So for us, at least for me, fundraising is not that short-term goal, it takes time. I hope that I killed 3 minutes.
As far as women founders, all the women in the room, right? Honestly, we're gender neutral, completely gender neutral, right? Ironically, we haven't invested in many women with the women-founded businesses, but we're a woman-founded business, right? So that's the irony of it. But it's not because of there's no good reason for it. Will you face some sort of discrimination at some point in time in your career? Yes, you will. That's the honest truth. I think when you have your first baby, it's the first time and hopefully the last time you will face discrimination. But you will face it at that point in time because suddenly that same dedicated professional is going through a transformational journey through which a lot of women actually have opted to take a turn. So it's not because of men, it's because of the data that's preceding the actions of other women that is causing the question in people's mind. But after your first baby, if any boss shows any critical this thing, please take him to Me Too or whatever else, or your HR or anywhere else, right? And shame the hell out of him, right? But yes, when you have your first baby, if your investor is not nervous about it, right? Or your boss is not nervous about it, right? Think of it like this: all of you have worked, right?
Yeah.
How many people in sales? Has anybody worked in sales before? Can you imagine having a zonal sales head who goes on leave for 4 months? That's the challenge that your boss is facing. Can you imagine a CEO missing for 3 months? Right? That's not going to happen. Right? In reality, most committed entrepreneurs don't do that. They don't manage for 3 months. Right? My wife was working right up to the last day. Right? Literally. And after 3 days or 1 week, she was back on her BlackBerry at that point in time, at the time of her first baby, right? That's the simple truth. That was her nature. That was her drive, right? So, trust me, most people most people will not be biased against women founders. Women have done enough, founded enough good businesses and shown adequate promise in every walk of life, that if you think that if your boss sees that drive, and it's not just women, it's also guys, for the record. So if we think a guy is not adequately committed to a role, right, will we or will we not let him go? It's a straight decision as a boss, right? If you think that someone is not committed, right, he's going to hinder the growth of the company, right? Now, the difference is that in the same scenario, most bosses are expected to accommodate maternity, and most bosses are ill-equipped to accommodate the first maternity because of the uncertainty around it. Right? That's the simple truth. So you will face discrimination at that point in time, not discrimination, but at least a discriminatory view at that point in time. And it's your job just as much to assure them of your professionalism, so you're never questioned again in your life. That's my honest experience, right? It's not an opinion, it's my honest experience.
So
After Abhijit, I will go.
gender is not I have not seen anywhere, but investors are more single founder averse, gender agnostic. Doesn't single founder is a big no, whether male or female doesn't matter, because as if some emergency comes and you have to go out for 6 months, who is going to run the company? It's the same for male or female. I don't think problems are everywhere for gender bias. There's no gender bias there. And I think second is, I think nowadays funds are more looking for even investors. EQ is coming more into picture, emotional quotient, in addition to IQ. So, because the current customer is heavily EQ driven, right? The young generation. It's not IQ driven, it's very so a lot of these new factors are coming on when we consider founders, how well they're able to manage these challenging situations. Gender though I have not seen at all in so many years of my career. I can bet you I have not seen the investor going finicky because you are a female founder. If Shraddha Sharma can do it, anyone can do it. Right? She's a single founder.
I have, and I've seen it at a top global fund who had invested in us. I'm not going to take the name, but somebody actually walked up to my wife and said, "Why haven't you declared your customer pregnancy to the board?" She said, "How the fuck is it your business?" She said, "I've had a baby before. How is it your business? You invested in me when I already had one child." Right? And we screamed and shouted about it. Right? So it is not that it will not happen. I'm telling you that I've seen it in my own experience. This is like a leading global fund. Multi-billion-dollar fund. Right? Somebody who's been educated in the West, ran his startup in the West, and was sitting on our board.
I think at the end of the day, it's all a function of risk mitigation. I mean, for a lady, pregnancy and all of that is something that is stated. But for men, I have seen founders who was a single son, whose father passed away. The business shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever be your PPTs, whatever be all of that. So I think gender or not, it's all a function of there are certain risks. I'm putting my money on it. How do I mitigate those risks and keep moving?
No, you're completely right. And I am only saying that at some point in time there is also a bias, right? And that bias comes particularly at that point in time. And once in your life, when you because it brings you to a strange point where data says that
It does.
that data says that people diverge.
There is a legacy.
There is a legacy to it. But after that, if someone questions it for a second time, that is entirely unacceptable as a bias, because there is data that you are in this half and not that.
Well, sometimes I feel that we all are becoming machine. I would love to ask these people who feel that things cannot be done by a woman and they need to take a break for 3 months. Check Malamma Ayar from southern part of India, or maybe Evgenia from Ukraine. The way they run it, they have a CEO who is a female. Okay, let me make it very, very light. I'm sure that you all have mom, father, daughter, sister, right? What happens in family if somebody got pregnant? Others take control of that part. Women usually teach that how to do it. If you are not a cook, you become cook. Yeah. If you are taking care of your maybe local marketing and all, then definitely other roles comes around. This is what exactly is happening in a proper company. I'm so sorry about this statement. People who understand how to create leadership in their company, they usually create such kind of situation where the top management, if you have a CEO, she is a female, definitely they will create an alternative person who can actually take care of the situation during that particular time period. And that is happening. And those companies are sustaining. Those companies are doing actually absolutely great. I'm really sorry if that happened with you, Gaurav, but I'm not sure. I have seen funds, I have seen people who nowadays are becoming more and more human rather than saying that, hey, we are corporate. And there's a taboo. If you're corporate, if you're maybe running a corporate culture, then there is no emotion. I'm sorry. Nowadays, it's not that trend. If you look at the best companies in the world, they understand human as human they are. And that's how you can run a corporate proper organization rather than saying that whatever hashtag you want to
Well, just for the fun of countering it, if the world was really operating the way you did, because we wouldn't have a Madoff happening.
Agreed.
Bernie Madoff happening, right? So
What
I think
is startups right
Gaurav's
now?
point is that we have all kinds of people, but at the end of the day, the resilience and the passion that the entrepreneur brings in is probably the tilting point, because I think it's a matter of ethics, at least in India. That's been my view, because the person who's giving the money thinks that they're God,
Agreed?
but once the entrepreneur is successful, the entrepreneur thinks he's God.
Yeah.
And I think there needs to be a correction of both ends, because actually it's a partnership.
Once
And
the
look
entrepreneur
who is
becomes 1,000
now
crore.
look who is making this statement, the woman, right?
Yes,
Because
I
you can
am-
tell that because you understand this. In my point of view, a woman is universe herself. You understand more the world rather than us men. Trust me.
I agree. What I'm trying to say is that the world is not you and me. The world has all kinds of people. So there has to be an acknowledgement that there is bias. But I'm saying the conversation has to go a little ahead of just not recognizing there's a bias, but how do you deal with it? And coming back to the investment, I mean, I was just sharing with him, my fundamental question, apart from the models and everything, is can I look at this guy every quarter in the board meeting? Honestly, because the decision is at both ends, right? And if I can't handle a half an hour meeting, I don't want your money at the end of the day, irrespective of whatever sweet the deal is, right? So your ability to walk away is as important as your ability to say yes. And by that point, we are gender neutral, or gender does not have a role. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take away, but it's I
No,
couldn't keep quiet.
it's a really good point.
Yeah, okay.
It's very
Thank
good.
you for that. Yeah. But let's wrap it up.
So considering the interest of time, just one last thing.
He realized
Just one last thing.
One last thing.
And I don't know, like, I should have stuck to the list of questions. But rather than, being inquisitive and asking that what happened in the last manner, and then out of the blue I came with this.
No, I
question.
think it's a great
Yeah,
question.
but it was a great
It's a
discussion.
great question. I think it's a great question.
So just one thing, sitting there will be some entrepreneurs which will be coming in the next 3-5 years. So just one word or one sentence, final advice or a word of caution to the upcoming founders. What they should do or keep in mind if they think that yes, they have an idea, and yes, that idea is it can be converted to a $1 billion business. Just one word of advice or caution to the.
Every great business is built on an understanding of an industry, like the back of your hand, and an insight which gives you a financial impact somewhere. Right? Take any great business and think of how it has altered the value chain in that industry. Right? Unless you're able to have an impact on people's wallets, especially in India, or on their minds, right? for the woke crowd and so on and so forth, for the one percenters, for people look, there's a business model for the one percenters as well, right? Unless you can have an impact on their wallet or on their wokeness, right? It is going to be extremely difficult to build a sustainable, good business, right? So please keep that in mind. Have expertise, knowledge about what you want to disrupt, right?
Yeah. So, entrepreneurship is very addictive. I've never seen anyone got into it and coming out of it, going back to the very rare. So before you get into it, I have only three advices because you will never be able to get out of it. So that's why I'm telling you. First, your kitchen should be always running. Whether you are earning or not, doesn't matter. Your father is paying, your wife is paying, your mother is paying. Somebody has to pay for your kitchen. Because if you can't sustain, you can't run business. Second is, you have to figure out the problem. The problem is very important. Everyone in all the panels there. Without problem, there is no entrepreneurship. Gone are the doors that IIT graduates come out of IIT. Okay, I like the business in US. I am good at coding. I will make a copy and it will work. That's not going to work anymore. Third is, I would say, figure out a way to raise money. If you want to raise money, only for expansion, not for running your cash flows. If you start raising money for your cash flows, of course you're dead anyway. So shut the company and go back to job. So these are the 3 pointers. I'm sure if keep it, maybe some of you will raise money from us. Come to us. We keep asking entrepreneurs, come to us. Actually, it's tougher for us than you, because finding a good entrepreneur is much tougher a challenge for us than you raising starting a business. We are doing a harder job. Give some claps.
Sir, in the interest of time, we'll have to move ahead.
Just last words.
Yes, that's it.
यार last word मेरा last word अभी बढ़ने नहीं वाला हूँ यार. Okay, very quick and brief. If you really think that this is your time to start your business, then only start. Don't start your business because somebody started. Second point, come out of your comfort zone. I'm so sorry about this judgment. If you are comfortable whatever you're doing and feel that your comfort zone will probably ask you to do a lot of calculated risk, there is nothing called calculated risk. Boss, you need to take a risk. Very simple. This is a management term, calculated risk. Third one, in business, everything is good. Everything is good. I'll give you a small tips. Maybe you will feel I'm a monk or something. Try to learn how to become water. You know the meaning? Become a best reflection. If somebody is saying that he or she is ugly, then you should have that reflection in your mind. Try to be adaptive. Try to have each and every color that life gives you. Try to be happy. If you're not happy, you're not going to build any business. Create great team. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to understand how to make your team work. A business runs on team, not on employees. And be a great CEO. This is an interesting point. Full form of CEO? Cash Instruction Officer. Thank you. 26 letters, you play with it.
Sir, along the lines of you be water, I think we have all heard a similar statement in previous pictures.
Chinese action movies.
You know, Jeetu is also from IT.
Yeah,
Yes, sir, I am aware.
And just one thing, we all talked about professors, and you all said that.
I have huge respect for professors.
Yeah. So I'm just adding.
So do I.
So, Abhijit, one point when you said that EQ thing, na, trust me, a professor is sitting here. We had almost 3-4 classes on emotional intelligence and emotional quotient only. So one thing you said that yes, that is very important, and we all agree that we are studying this.
candid panel discussion. And now I would like to call Professor Sarangi to hand out the memento of appreciation to our panelists. We would like to call Mr. Arijit first to receive the memento of appreciation. Sir, this is for Mr. Abhijit. Mr. Gaurav, you're up next. So we would also like to hand over the memento to our moderator, amazing moderator for today, Akash.
I must also give a disclaimer. I have not released the grades, so I don't know. So emotional intelligence, I don't know. I leave it to that.
Sarvi sir, we would like to hand you a bouquet for all the felicitation and the memento distribution.
Yes,
for
all the hard work.
and we would like to vote of thanks.
I know the sofas are comfortable.
I would like to invite Anshu ma'am, and this time Sarangi sir would be on the opposite side, receiving a memento. Thank you so much.